This is Chess Intermediate Level Phase 3. Don't forget to subscribe to the Method A channel. In this video, we will look at the unofficial opening, the Queen's Gambit, the Sicilian, the Italian, the Ruy Lopez, the French defense, the Caro-Kann, and the Dutch defense. The unofficial opening. With the unofficial opening, both players, white and black, try to put out on the board 2 to 4 pawns, both knights, both bishops, at least one rook, and playing their queen with caution. As is seen on the board, this is a typical unofficial opening in a chess game. If you're playing with a family member or a friend, and both sides are just getting their chess pieces out on the board, getting their pawns, their knights, their bishops, trying to get a rook out, and just doing what they can to just get pieces out there and seeing how the game will go from there. This would be an unofficial opening for both sides in a pickup chess game. Queen's Gambit. With the Queen's Gambit, white pawn moves to d4, black pawn moves to d5, and white pawn moves to c4. This is the Queen's Gambit, and it's an official opening to a chess game. And here we see white making the first move with the right hand side white pawn, which is technically d4. Black makes its move with its pawn, and then white comes back with another pawn, and it looks as though black could make the move and steal the white pawn going diagonal. However, this would leave it for white to look to dominate the center of the board, if that would be the outcome in this game, as the basic understanding of the Queen's Gambit. The Sicilian. With a Sicilian, white pawn moves to e4 and black pawn moves to c5. This is the Sicilian defense. And here we see white moving its pawn to the e4 position, and black moving its pawn to the c5 position. And it's said that white has a 56% advantage in winning the game with this kind of opening. The Italian game. With the Italian game, white pawn moves to e4, black pawn moves to e5, white knight moves to g3, black knight moves to c6, and white bishop moves to c4. This is the Italian opening, or the Italian game. And here we see white making the first move with its pawn to the e4 position. Black makes its move with its pawn to the e5 position. White comes back with its knight to the G3 position. That would be followed by black moving its knight to the C6 position. And then white makes its move with its bishop to the C4 position. And this opening seems to give the white bishop the advantage in attacking the F7 position. The Ruy Lopez. With the Ruy Lopez, white pawn moves to E4, black pawn moves to E5, white knight moves to F3, black knight moves to C6, and white bishop moves to F5. Here we have the Ruy Lopez opening, and white moves first. And with white we see the white pawn moved to the E4 position. And then we see the black pawn move to the E5 position. Then the white knight is moved to the F3 position. That's followed by black moving its black knight to the C6 position. And then finally white moving its white bishop to the F5 position. This is said to give white the advantage of removing most of black's pawns from the board. The French defense. With the French defense, white pawn moves to E4 and black pawn moves to E6. Here we have the French defense. And with this opening, we see white making its first move with its pawn to the E4 position. And then this is followed then by black making its move with its pawn to the E6 position. With this opening, it could give white the advantage over black in winning this game, depending on how each player would move the rest of its pieces. The Caro-Kann. With the Caro-Kann, white pawn moves to E4, black pawn moves to C6. This is the Caro-Kann opening. And here we see white would make its move with its white pawn to the E4 position. And then black would make its move with its black pawn to the C6 position. And with this opening, it would actually give black a possible advantage over white, because black would have better pawn structure than white would have. The Dutch defense. With the Dutch defense, white pawn moves to D4, black pawn moves to F5. Here is the Dutch defense, or the Dutch opening. Here we could see white making its move with the white pawn to the D4 position, and then black making its move with its pawn to the F5 position. And with this opening, it's making both black and white's kings susceptible to being checkmated in the future. And this is not a opening that is used very much, especially in tournaments. This concludes Chess Intermediate Level Phase 3.